This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, we're now just 20 days out from the start of Packers training camp. They will get things going July 23rd up in Green Bay. Going to be the first of 14 practices open to the public, including the annual Family Night at Lambeau Field. The Packers still have some work to do as a contract restructure for center Elton Jenkins is likely needed to get him into camp, while the team's second-round pick, Anthony Belton, remains unsigned. Turning to Wisconsin, the Big Ten recently announced players will attend media days out in Las Vegas coming up in a couple of weeks for the Badgers. Going to include quarterback Billy Edwards Jr., center Jake Renfro, and cornerback Ricardo Hallman. Meanwhile, the Wisconsin basketball team added a fifth transfer player this week in Temple forward Elijah Gray. It gives the Badgers 9 new scholarship players for this upcoming season. All that change could be tough on the culture the program has built, but assistant Joe Krabanoff says their player focus is the same.
Try to resemble who we've always been in this new landscape. Being able to adapt and get really good players out of the portal and is important, but never forgetting who you are and what got you here. And that's, the core of who we are as a foundation, as a program, is that, retention and that high school recruiting. So those things are always at the top of the list.
Again, that was Wisconsin assistant Joe Krabanoff.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Rural Mutual Insurance is a proud sponsor of the Wisconsin State Fair. As a thank you for your support, they're giving away State Fair tickets. Visit ruralmutual.com/win and enter to win State Fair tickets.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers are in New York. It's where they're closing out a 3-game series with the Mets tonight. Team split their doubleheader yesterday. After tonight, Milwaukee headed to Miami to face the Marlins starting tomorrow. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
To hang on, but he couldn't. And now Nimmo with the bases loaded. Crashes one to deep right field. Back toward the corner. Freeland goes back at the wall. It's out of here! Brandon Nimmo with a grand slam!
It's done. I mean, you use the old Tiger Woods approach and, move on to the next hit. Move on to the next pitch. And, it is what it is. I got a loss, but oh well.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That was the play that, for the most part, decided the game last night. The grand slam from Brandon Nimmo in the second inning, and then Jacob Mizorowski discussing his performance. And I think really that second inning when he says, I had a bad outing, it's bound to happen. He did have a bad outing, and the results were poor, especially when you consider how he looked in his first 3 appearances. That's not compared to what he's been used to, compared to what we've been used to seeing from him. That was bad. But I really think it started and ended in that second inning, and that was the grand slam that you heard that then was followed by another home run by Francisco Lindor, a solo shot. So that's where I want to begin the show. I want to talk about the Brewer game last night. We can discuss. Mizorowski, I think, gave us some good talking points. And then the rest of the show is completely and totally up to you. It's a Free Phones Friday. The agenda or the topic or the direction of the show will be decided by you. And typically, I prefer for those topics to be sports, although we're in the period of the summer now where, we can dabble in other things if you are interested. I believe Darnell the Chump called last week and wanted to talk about scripture, specifically the haircut of Samson and then bringing down the tent or the temple or whatever building he was in. So normally I tell you, yeah, we'll talk about whatever sports thing you want. Really right now, it's what the Brewers are doing and the Bucks. And I have a couple of bits of audio that I want to talk about. I'm a little confused. The Dame Lillard situation confuses me, not the transaction. The transaction itself makes all the sense in the world. I got that. They don't want to have him on the team anymore, so they basically cut him loose. They spread that money out over a couple of years. I understand the transaction. Some of the reporting on this is really bizarre, and I can't really get a good understanding of where Dame stands with Milwaukee and where Milwaukee stands with him. And for all the NBA voices who have chimed in on this, I feel like we should have a better, clearer idea. And we don't. And that's kind of bothering me. So we're going to get to that at some point tonight as well. But your phone calls welcome in the opening segment if you're ready. And I know that some of you are going to lose us because the Brewers, I think, they play at 6:10 tonight. I have it in front of me here. Not in front of me quick enough. They play at 6:10. So WK2I, WAYY up in Eau Claire, our affiliates in Western and Northwestern Wisconsin, going to drop off for the Brewers pregame. So if you have anything to contribute that first hour, the first 90 minutes, make sure that you get it in. And I'll take your calls again in the opening segment if you're ready. 608-321-1670. Ebo, by the way, going to join us in hour number 2 as well. I love Ebo to death. And he used to come on the show, I don't know, every couple of weeks. Once a month is typically the rotation. That's normally when we have most of our, our recurring or our regular guests, especially when I was broadcasting out of La Crosse, because I would never really see Ebo. I do his show once a week. He would do mine. And now I'm in here every day. I see the guy every day. And I, for the most part, hop on at the end of his show every day. But it's been a while since he's been on the evening show. I don't have anything uber important or particular to talk about with Ebo, but I think that's the best time to have Ebo on. So he's going to join us sometime in hour number 2. I don't know the exact time. He's getting his lift on. So he's just going to let me know. He'll let us know whenever he's done. And then he'll join us in hour number 2. I want to begin, before we get into some of your phone calls, with Mizorowski last night, because the take today that I've seen on all the shows, and I think this was represented in everything that I read in print media and the tweets that I saw from the Brewers think tank, whether it's Kurt Hogue or McAlvey or David Gasper or Hunter Baumgart, whoever. I guess the takeaway from last night that I've seen most commonly, it's kind of been the generic universal takeaway from last night's game, is it was bound to happen. Miz was not going to be the guy that we saw in his first 3 starts in every start. He was bound to get roughed up. He was bound to have a bad appearance at some point. It just happened to go down last night. Miz accepts that, move on. You should as well. And I guess for the most part, I agree with that. Like, I'm not going to be here like, I don't know. I saw some warning signs last night. He might be cooked. They should trade him. He had a bad start. I don't think that he'll be bad like that moving forward. Every once in a while, he's going to be, just because that's how Major League Baseball works. Even the best pitchers get shelled every once in a while. Their feel isn't quite right, or they get a little tired. Maybe the hitters get a real good pickup on, a tendency or a tell so they can spot pitches, whatever it might be. Happens to everybody. I think he'll be fine moving forward, but I think last night is a little bit more complicated than that. First, let's hear a little bit from Mizorowski on that. You heard a touch of this in the intro, but I want to play like the full 60-second soundbite that I cut from MLB.com, because the FanDuel channel, again, doesn't post clips anymore on Twitter. So here's Miz last night.
I threw good pitches and they hit them.
First of all, I think he threw some good pitches that they hit. That grand slam that he gave up to Nimmo was a meatball. It was a slider, belt high, up and in. Like, that's batting practice. But I think there were some other good pitches that he made that didn't get results. But I push back a little bit on that opening comment.
I threw good pitches and they hit them. I don't think plain and simple as that. I mean, you're facing the best of the best. You're getting paid what they were getting paid for a reason. My fingers were just a little too far on the right side of the ball and kind of spun a little different than I'm used to. So, no, nothing crazy. I think I came back pretty well after that and put up another 2 innings, or 1 1/3 and 2/3, whatever it was. So, no, I felt good. Yeah, I mean, it sucks, but at the same time, like, it is what it is. And I think, get ready for next week and what that has to come. It's done. I mean, use the old Tiger Woods approach and, move on to the next hit, move on to the next pitch. And, it is what it is. I got a loss, but oh well.
It's done. You got to move on. It reminds me, I've shared this anecdote 100 times, but I'm going to share it again. One of my closest friends in college, one of my roommates, actually just got married that long ago. And I talked to him at his wedding about this. We lived together for 3 years during college. So we kind of went through the, I don't know, whatever it is in college. You go through, you party together, and then you go through school and you struggle with this, that, and the other. You just experience the college ups and downs, the college calendar together. We did it, 3 or 4 times. And he and we were both the type to cram. At the beginning of every college semester, it's like, I'm gonna study incrementally, so I really get a good handle on the material, and that way I'm not cramming at the end, because we all know that's not effective. And then every semester we would cram, regardless of it not being as effective as the other thing that we swore that we were going to do. And he was a notorious crammer. So it's like, anytime he had an exam, he would say farewell to the household, the living room, like he was being deployed. Like, he would get his backpack on, and in the winter, you'd have to bundle up, walk to the library. He had this down jacket, this puffy, but it was like lime fluorescent green. And I don't remember, there was a reason that he had that color. I think he got it. It was a really nice jacket that he got on discount at a certain store. And he's like, this is the color they had. I don't care what color it is. And I completely and totally agree. I don't care really about, colors. And he would depart the living room and he would say, well, boys, Midwestern is Midwestern gets. Midwestern goodbye. I'm off to study. And he would disappear for 2 nights, for 5 or 6 hours, 2 nights before an exam. And then he would take the exam and he'd come back into the house. We were a close household. We always talked about, our class schedule or whatever. And he would come through the door and we'd say, well, how'd it go? And he would get this eating grin on his face. And he'd just go, it's out of my hands, which means probably not that great, but you know what? Nothing I can do about it now. And I just caught a little whiff of that from Mizorowski at the end of his presser. It's done.
Use the old Tiger Woods approach.
The old Tiger Woods approach.
Move on to the next hit.
It's out of my hands. It's done. It's over with. Anytime I have an excuse or a reason to remember that expression from college, it's out of my hands. Which translation, not good. But you know what? I'm not going to fail the class, and now it's done with. So I do like the approach from Miz. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll bounce back. But I think just to chalk up last night's start is it was bad. It was bound to happen. I think it's a little basic. I don't know that it paints the full picture. So the first inning, he had to work harder than we're used to seeing him work. He only allowed 1 base runner in the first, but he had to work Nimmo for 4 pitches. He had to work Lindor for 5 pitches. He walked Soto after 6 pitches. He got Alonso after 6 pitches. So he worked some counts. He threw some pitches in that first inning. And, you could complain about Miz's control. Well, that's the issue with him. It's always going to be throwing strikes. But, we saw this with Freddie yesterday in game 1, too. Nimmo puts the bat to the ball. Lindor puts the bat to the ball. Think of that at bat that we saw Arenado have against McGill a couple weeks ago. He's just up there protecting the plate, locking in, choking up proverbially, because I don't know how many guys actually choke up in the year 2025, but like spiritually or conceptually choking up, protecting the plate and staying alive. Yeah, Lindor's pretty good at that. Soto's pretty good at that. Pretty good ball strike discipline. And then Alonso, much of the same, a good hitter, a dangerous hitter who strikes out, but it takes 6 pitches. So I almost in the first inning, I tipped my cap to the Mets. Just like I think it was warranted in game 1 when they made Freddie Peralta work for 25 pitches in the first inning, right? Sometimes good hitters extend at bats and make you work in an inning. I think for the most part in that first inning, weighing in Mizorowski's propensity to get a little wild, I think he did just fine. Here's how the second inning went. The second inning, he gave up 5 runs. He gets a ground out from Jeff McNeil on 6 pitches. Again, a good at bat. Tyrone Taylor flies out on 4 pitches. So we're 10 pitches in, 2 outs. Base is empty. It's going well. Brett Beatty then draws a walk on 6 pitches. Mauricio draws a 6-pitch walk. And then the turning point of the game and the moment in the game that I'm most interested in and I've been thinking about since last night. Senger, whoever that is, beats a ball into the ground that bounces in front of Mizorowski and goes just high enough to get over his head, but Mizorowski nicks it with his glove. The ball still gets to second base where Terang is waiting for it, and off the deflection, Terang had an opportunity to snag it and record the final out of the inning. 0 runs allowed. It was a difficult play. I think Terang would tell you it's a play that he feels as though he should make. It's really hard when the ball's flying off the bat and it bounces and then it deflects and then it bounces again. Like it's a really hard play. I'm not blaming Terang for this. I'm just saying, Terang would probably tell you that he should make that play. I want to know how last night goes. I want to know how Mizorowski's 4th Major League Baseball start goes if Terang just sucks up that ball and the inning's over. And Nimmo doesn't get the meatball slider high and in to hit out of the park. And then Lindor doesn't hit the solo shot after that because his velocity started to dip. He got a little wilder. He got a little fatigued, right? And those are all real concerns with Mizorowski. When you throw 100, 200, 3, fatigue is a concern, especially when you're transitioning from the minors to the majors and you're pitching on shorter rest. Like everything's just, ratcheted up a notch. How's he going to be able to maintain that velocity? Because it's the velocity that allows him to get away with with the location, right? Effectively wild is what it's called. Hader was effectively wild, but his fastball had such good swing and miss stuff that he didn't have to locate his pitches perfectly. I think Miz is capable of locating pitches. It's just pitch to pitch. It might be a little inconsistent. It might be a little wild. So once Senger reaches and he has to extend to his 6th hitter of the inning, velocity starts to drop a little bit, things start to struggle, and then that grand slam happens. And again, I'm not telling you that command doesn't remain an issue. I'm not telling you that, like, yeah, he made a bad pitch. I'm not excusing some of Mizorowski's warts last night, because I think all in all, the warts that we saw last night are at the top of our list. But I want to know how last night goes if Bryce Terang just sucks up the ball at second base, records the final out, Mizorowski gets to get out of there without facing an extra 3 batters in the inning and throwing a bunch more pitches. How does he look if he comes back out for the 3rd? Could he have, reached cruising altitude, as I like to say? It's one of my favorite kind of analogies or expressions. Like, sometimes the 1st, 2nd inning, you can work pretty hard and you might have to toil a little bit, but a lot of times pitchers will reach kind of, a place where they get into cruise control. Start to work through innings quickly, and here's a 1-2-3. You mix in a 1-2-3 inning, and the pitcher gets to go right back to the dugout and kind of stay in a rhythm. I want to know how last night's start goes if Terang just sucks up that ball at second. The 2nd inning ends when it does. 5 runs before it does. He gets a chance to go back into the dugout and rest that arm a little bit. Maybe the velocity comes back out in the 3rd inning, and he's fine. Maybe the control doesn't start to waver a little bit the way that it did. I think last night's game for Mizorowski is a little more complicated than, well, he was bound to have a bad start. I don't know that last night's start had to be bad. That sliding doors moment in the 2nd, it's very intriguing. I like in sporting events pondering or considering, like, okay, if that one thing had gone a little differently, how may the result of the game have been different, and how may we, talk about it differently? Right? Because when our team loses, we draw conclusions, right? Bad game, therefore we need to reverse engineer what went bad, what is bad, what was wrong, what didn't work. And I'm telling you, last night, at least for Mizorowski, I'm wondering if he mostly would have been fine if that bad luck, batted ball just is out of the reach or out of the glove of Terang, if it goes a little bit differently. I don't know. I like considering these things, because I think just to walk away from last night's game thinking, well, it was a bad start, was bound to happen. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit more complicated than that, or maybe it should be. For God's sakes, we have 2 hours to talk about one game tonight. Lord knows there isn't anything else going on. I do want to talk a little bit about the Bucks, and we're going to have Ebo in hour number 2. But when we come back, I want to get to some of your phone calls. It's a free phones Friday, meaning talk about whatever you want. You want to call in and talk Packers? We'll go there right after the break in 3 minutes. Hit me up on the phone, 608-321-1670. To you next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Fins up. By the way, it's Friday. It's not really Friday. It's also a free phones Friday. Again, not really a Friday, but the last day that we're going to talk this week. It'll be a best of tomorrow. I apologize. No guest host. There will be no show. I apologize. But tomorrow night, I put together the best of earlier today. You're going to rehear that conversation with Dom Catronio, who was so good. I told you at the beginning of the show, I said, guys, I'm so jacked to have Dom on. And for those of you who weren't familiar with his game, I think you probably realized why yesterday. He's awesome. So that's in tomorrow night's. I also put a couple of segments in, including one, this whole like national media versus the Bucks idea, which normally I'm not in on. And I kind of explained why yesterday, although the more that I listened and the more different sound bites that I clipped today, maybe there is something to that. But as I said before the break, as promised, I want to get to your phone calls. There's 3 of you on hold. I promise I'll get to you all before we go to this next break. You will set the agendas today with your phone calls. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Happy Friday, Grant. It's Badger Bloody.
Hey, Badger Bloody. What's going on?
Well, just enjoying this nice Friday afternoon. And you're right, for all intents and purposes, it is Friday today as we prepare to celebrate America's birthday.
All intensive purposes? That seems like a mistake that someone would make that would really crawl up your rear end. That seems like something that would set you off.
I mean, you never want to take days like this for granted. Am I right?
Yeah. I'll never take your calls for granted. Yeah, absolutely, Badger Bloody. Well, what's up? What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to just talk about a Bucks adjacent story, and I don't know if you have talked about this on the show previously, and I just missed it. If you have, I apologize. But are you keeping up with this Malik Beasley story?
It's pretty crazy. Bill talked about it earlier today because we had a 4-hour show and there's nothing going on. I said, Bill, we should probably spend a segment on this. Like, this is a significant thing, especially considering the Guardians had to put a player on leave earlier today for the same thing. Like, we're seeing these gambling stories pop up more often than not, but Malik Beasley was a guy who's going to make legit money. Like, he's not a Jonte Porter bottom of the roster guy. He was going to make probably $30 million on this next contract. And it sounds like he already had it leveraged and promised to people who he owed money to.
100%. And that's what makes that story so wild, is because he's definitely not, like a scrub in the league. Like, he was a pretty prominent and well-known player. And the fact that he was playing for our Milwaukee Bucks. And the more I've been reading about this, the crazier and crazier it gets. And yeah, the point that you make about how pretty much his entire contract, and I think bonuses, he had basically promised to people to pay off certain debts, or he had some kind of agreement. He got sued by his dentist, his hairdresser, and his representing sports agency. And the barber, incidentally, was Cairo Cuts in Milwaukee, where I guess a lot of the NBA guys go and get their hair cut when they're in town there. And another thing that I saw kind of related to this online was people have been taking compilation videos of things that he is very clearly trying to adjust the outcome of games or like lack thereof, where it's seconds left and he's running down the floor to get a last second bucket, or like not moving his feet at all, just letting guys blow by him on defense. And it's like, if people on the internet are able to put this together, I think the law enforcement agencies have quite a damning case against Mr. Beasley. But hey, people who have dated Scottie Pippen's ex-wife are not exactly known for their smart decision-making.
So there's just so much. In Badger Bloody, we got loaded phone lines, and I want to make sure that we get to everybody. So have a great 4th of July. I'll circle back and do some more stuff on Malik Beasley. What's weird about Beasley is I remember when he got in trouble in Minnesota for some sort of domestic, and by the way, a domestic dispute doesn't necessarily mean it's with a woman, a brother, a family member. I don't remember who it was with. He served jail time. And I think I remember reading, I could remember this wrong, from folks like John Krasinski, like, hey, shout out to Malik Beasley, was very mature, took his medicine, came back, understood the gravity of the situation, and I think in that sense, like, if that's the way you're going to be, like, everyone should get a second chance. Malik Beasley's always, found himself in issues off the court, but he's never been reported on as a bad guy. I don't think that he makes good decisions. And obviously, financially, that's been true. We'll circle back to that. So that's on the list. We're going to get to that. We just got loaded phones here. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Howdy, Grant. Coyote Mike.
Hey, Coyote Mike. I'm sure you want to talk about Mizorowski. You want to talk Brewers?
Yeah. I'm going to have a bit. Well, first of all, happy day before the 4th of July.
You as well.
And I just got back from the liquor store. I had to get some more old style. So
good for you. Oh my God.
I got a little bit of a different take. I thought Mizorowski, because I got to watch the game, I thought he seemed kind of overconfident, a little too nonchalant out there.
Maybe
when he was pitching and throwing, he didn't seem to be focused. The first inning, I think he struck out two batters, and I think he probably got into that second inning and think, well, I still got it, and that's how I perceived it. Then he gives up the grand slam, and I think he goes back out for one more inning?
Yeah, he pitched. I think he went back out for two more. He completed the third and then got 2 outs in the fourth. I think he went 3 2/3.
Well, then he was out there and he was kind of laughing on the mound and smirking about something. And I think he walks the next guy, and I thought, you just put your team down 4-0. I don't think, you're a rookie. I don't think you should be laughing right now, because it wasn't a funny situation. But that's just how I took it. And what do I know? Like I always say, I'm 1,200 miles away from Milwaukee and Wisconsin. So, but that was my take on it. And I thought the Brewers might have been able to get back in it there, but they just kind of got some bad luck again. But
yeah, and
tonight's a new game.
I don't know. I listened to long stretches of it. Coyote Mike, I appreciate the call. The offense just didn't really put much together until like the 5th or the 6th inning. It's hard for me to really blame pitching too much when the offense just kind of no-shows, especially against a player like Blade Tidwell. Is that the cat's name? Yeah, Blade Tidwell. They were talking on the radio, Brian. He has an ERA of 9. I think he had an ERA of over 10 coming into yesterday. The offense just had a bad night. Sometimes that happens. By the way, Coyote Mike, just listen to Miz's postgame comments. This is the first thing out of his mouth.
I threw good pitches and they hit it.
I don't think at least the pitch that he gave up the grand slam on was not a good pitch. That was a slider up and in right in the wheelhouse. Like that was a meatball. So maybe he threw some good pitches that guys just fought off and made plays on. But if we're strictly talking about the big damage swings, it was not a good pitch. 2 more calls here, so hang tight, I promise. Wisco Sports Show, who's this? Hello.
Hey, Grant. Jeremy over in Eau Claire. How are you?
I'm excellent, Jeremy. What's up?
Not too much. I wanted to jump in on the Miz conversation, too, a little bit. So, by the way, how are you doing? Are you ready for the 4th weekend? Or?
Yeah, well, I'm coming up your way, Jeremy, right after the show. My folks live up around Eau Claire, so that's where I'm going to be this weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
Well-deserved time off.
Thank you.
But, so basically, I think Murph led to it, not this last start, but the start before, where he said, hey, he's a young kid. He's going to need to understand that he can't be more or less kind of like a one-trick pony.
Mm-hmm.
I think because he's young, he's coming into the league and he's, all eyes are on him because he's unique, right? He's a little bit of a unicorn, a starter that can go 6 innings and throw 100 and plus, right?
Yep.
So, but Murph said, hey, these guys can hit lightning, if they time you,
Yeah.
So he's going to need to learn how to mix that up. And that very start, he did really well with it. He did. But now here we are, the next start, and he ran into some trouble. I'll agree with you I agree with your take, by the way, totally. That pitch that he threw was like, I think that was just horrible. Like, it was a bad look. I think he was trying to do something cute there, and he just didn't get away with it.
And I don't know what he was going for, but it was a terrible pitch. Like that's a batting practice level pitch.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think he just missed his mark with it. But here's the thing, the Mets, I mean, it's not like they're scrubs. If he would have did that against, like say the A's or, White Sox or something, we'd be like, what's going on here? But the Mets, I mean, it's not like they're doing badly this year. They got good hitters.
Well,
I mean,
they've been playing poorly.
Team,
They've been playing poorly, but in those one-on-one matchups, that doesn't mean that trying to get Francisco Lindor, who's starting at shortstop in the All-Star game, or Juan Soto, who's got a really hard eye, like he doesn't strike out, he takes a lot of walks, and then Pete Alonso is Pete Alonso. Like it doesn't matter how well the Mets have been playing; those are still really difficult guys to get out, and I think we saw that manifested last night.
I guess that's what I meant. Yeah,
okay.
It's not like you're playing, the Colorado Rockies, where it's like you don't have a ton of, you're not running into some really good hitters,
and that's a team that strikes out a ton. Priester
time.
Definitely benefited from that. He got 11 strikeouts. Like the Rockies strike out at the highest clip in the league.
Right. So I think that's just what we ran into. It's like, hey, we're running into a little bit better team. We got some better caliber hitters that are veterans. They've been around. They've seen guys like you before. And then they saw a pitch and was like, oh, here we go. Like you said, meatball, that one's gone.
Yeah.
So outside of that, I think he's going to be fine. Give him time. I mean, he's brand new in the league. He'll figure it out,
Yeah. I think so too, Jeremy, and you have a great 4th of July. I guess I'll be up in your neck of the woods. One more caller. Just give me 20 seconds. Coyote Mike, Jeremy, and Eau Claire both hinting at this idea. A little overconfident. I think he was feeling himself a bit. Pat Murphy has talked about this concept. I'll try to find it over the break. I got a lot of Pat Murphy audio from Mike Clemens. Maybe I can dig it up. I have 5 minutes. Maybe I'll be able to pull it off. But he's talked about, like, you can't take pitches off. You can't take plays off. We're not good enough, right? Because that'll get you beat. And I would imagine that message probably was delivered one way or another to Mizorowski, or hopefully that was a lesson learned. It's like, hey, man, you can be rolling along and you can be feeling great about yourself. But if you take one pitch off, if you take one at bat off, all of a sudden, well, it's 5-0. What happened? Well, a couple walks, a bad luck ground ball, and then you make one bad pitch and you look up at the scoreboard and it's 4 or 5-0. So that's an idea that Murph's talked about. And I think Murph probably has a fair level of reticence. I believe I'm using that word correctly with Miz, not only for the command, but he might be a young kid who needs to get better at locking in, to your point, Mike and Jeremy. Thank you for the calls. One more here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Clemhead Mike.
Hey, Clemhead. Bring us home this segment.
Well, July 4th has wonderful memories for me. In 1975, I was in boot camp, and our company commander marched us for 6 straight hours on a huge asphalt parade grounds, no brakes and no water. Guys were dropping like flies, and when they dropped, they got pulled aside and they had to go through heavy calisthenics later that night, what they called it happy hour, is indoors in this huge hot building. But yeah, the weather was like right now, and if you tripped over somebody and went down, you were punished too. So I had to jump over some guys because they were so many guys that were falling down. But yeah, they wouldn't. My grandnephew was in boot camp three years ago in the Air Force. They didn't have to do anything like that.
They didn't have to do anything that tough. What was the toughest thing they had to do? Did they ever tell you that?
That was, I don't know why they did it. But 2 days earlier we'd done 4 straight hours. I guess a bit of a warm up. So everybody gets back to barracks and they throw their clothes down on the floor and it plop. I mean, they just like you soaked them in water.
I can't imagine that room smelled great.
Yeah, great times, Grant. Great times. But I was hoping maybe you'd be out and around Chippewa or Eau Claire. Chippewa Falls has a nice fireworks show tomorrow night, and it's they got band, they got live music there. And
what do they do there? Did they do their 4th of July stuff down at Irvine Park, or where do they do it?
Nope, it's that park. It's the park by the river. I can't remember what it's called.
Riverside Park.
But it's right downtown, and it's nice. There's plenty of room for everybody, and they had a big band stand there it's great. So you should come.
Well, I don't have any plans. I got to travel tonight. Clemhead, I appreciate it. Have a great 4th of July. And as always, thank you for your service. I'll be up there the rest of the weekend. My goal is to not do a lot of traveling. It's to get up and take a couple of steps towards some sort of reclining chair outside in the sun. I was up there a couple weeks ago and, wanted to do lake stuff and be outside, and the weather just absolutely blew. So here's to hoping that this weekend is not a replay of that. Speaking of weather, it seems like tonight's Mets-Brewers game will be delayed due to impending weather in the area. There will be updates provided as soon as they are available. At least that's from the Mets Twitter account. So maybe, I'm not sure how that'll affect our affiliates like WK2I and WAYY. Maybe we'll be able to keep you just a little while longer. Ebo will be joining us in the second hour of the show. When we come back, we can talk a little bit about the idea of Mizorowski being overconfident and how Pat Murphy might feel about such a thing. And then maybe the final segment of this hour, we can get into that Malik Beasley story that Badger Bloodies wanted to talk about, because it's a juicy one. And I think there are some lessons to be learned on a larger scale outside of Malik Beasley and outside of the NBA about gambling and, certain challenges that our sporting leagues might face moving forward. So that's all coming up. Fins up, by the way. It's Friday, a day early here on the Wisco Sports Show. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. I tried. That full 5-minute break, I was pouring through emails, mostly from Mike Clemens, and I get a lot of them, which is a great thing, right? All these sorts of sound bites, whether it be Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks, whatever big story the night before. Like Mike's always emailing sound, usually in the middle of the night, and I couldn't find the sound bite that I think exists. Sometimes maybe my brain, like it's programmed in a way now where it thinks there's a soundbite there that's not, or it thinks it remembers. Like, yeah, this is something that we talked about. So certainly Murphy said that. We talked about that. I couldn't find it, but in that last segment there, we were talking about Mizorowski. We got two calls, Coyote Mike and Jeremy and Eau Claire, who said Mizorowski looked a little overconfident. He maybe looked a little high on his own hog. Maybe he was smelling his own farts. And look, if you just listen to the first couple seconds of his presser from last night, you could get that impression.
I threw good pitches and they hit him. I don't think plain and simple as that.
Maybe some pitches, possibly. The pitch that he gave up the grand slam to Nimmo, I mean, that was a batting practice pitch. That was a Bryce Wilson special. Slider, hanging, up and in, bang. Like you can't throw a worse pitch. I mean, unless you're sending it to the backstop, but that's a bad pitch for a different reason. So I think Jeremy and Coyote Mike were looking at his body language and saying, this guy, he's not locked in, or maybe he's feeling a little bit too overconfident. Pat Murphy, I swear, this is what I was looking for, said recently, like, every single play, every single pitch, you need to be locked in. Otherwise, you lose, right? That's when you lose games, because the Brewers aren't talented enough. And I kind of think that Pat Murphy, enjoys this aspect of his team. Like, I think Pat Murphy would feel cheap about managing a team like the Dodgers or the Mets. Like, what's the fun in that? Where's the struggle? Where's the battle? Like, I think Pat Murphy is a good manager for a team like the Brewers, kind of the plucky underdog, right? That needs to grind harder and work harder and be angry and full of piss and vinegar because it's you against the world. Like, I think that's a good spot for Murphy. So I think he likes it. And he's right. The Brewers aren't talented enough to take pitches off and to take plays off. I keep looking back at that second inning last night where, well, Mizorowski, bad start. He'll bounce back. It was due to happen. Well, maybe I want to know what we'd be saying today. And I want to know how the rest of that game goes. If that grounder that bounced over Mizorowski right in front of Trang, if Trang just scoops it up and Sanger doesn't reach on that infield single that then gives way to the grand slam, I want to know what happens next, because then it's 0-0. Mizorowski's worked through a threat. He's pitching against a good lineup. I know the Mets, coming into yesterday had lost 14 of 17, and then they had lost 15 of 18 because they lost game one. They're not playing well, but like I told Jeremy, and we were going back and forth last segment when Jeremy and Eau Claire called in, like, the Mets have good hitters that'll make you work. Lindor's going to make you work. He's starting shortstop in the All-Star game. It was announced today. Like, he's awesome. And Juan Soto's really good, and his plate discipline is excellent. He'll make you work. He's not Javi Baez, where he's just going to swing at everything. Or Seiya Suzuki, who's an unbelievable hitter, but he guesses a lot, right? Sam Olber kind of talked about that with us 2 weeks ago or whenever, when Sam was on last. Like, that's not Soto, man. Like, he's going to make you throw pitches, and you're not going to get away with a poorly located pitch, and you're not going to be rewarded with a strikeout or an out if you're not stacking pitches in the zone, or at least on the edge of the zone. But Soto's got such a good reach, and he's got such a good eye. So Mizorowski worked hard in the first and the second inning. Yeah. If that one bouncing ball ends up in Trang's glove, that's what I'm saying. I want to know how that inning goes differently. And I think that's reasonable. The offense left a lot to be desired last night. Yelich and Churio hitting a home run. Churio needs to get going in the worst way. I'm going to pull up his splits here. We did a little bit of this last week, but I think it would behoove us to check in. If you look at his splits, I would wager that this month looks pretty good. Let's look at his last 30 days. His last 30 days, he's hitting 240 with, I'm just getting this sized up. 5 home runs, 16 RBIs, 7 walks. 7 walks, actually, over the last 30 days is pretty darn good. 240 over the last month, or if you just look at the month of June, he hit 250 with, a handful of home runs and some more RBIs. In his last 7 days or so, or the last 15 days, kind of the middle to the last part of June, he really tailed off and he hasn't been explosive and dangerous. Hopefully seeing the ball leave the yard on an opposite field swing last night, hopefully that gets him going in the right direction. Because if Contreras isn't going to be contributing much offensively, he went 0 for 5 last night with a strikeout. If you're not getting much from Contreras, it can't just be Yelich, right? Chourio needs to help out as well. And I know, well, Grant Ortiz has been good and Collins has been good. Yeah, I know. I don't think Joey Ortiz is going to hit like this for the rest of the season. I don't think Isaac Collins is this good, right? The idea is you have a couple stable bats around which all the other bats kind of orbit. And like planets, they'll have times where they go dark and be, farther away from the sun, and then they'll have times where they come closer. But while those bats may wax and wane, you want Yelich, Chourio, Contreras to be the anchor in the middle that kind of carry the freight most of the time and set up those other guys to succeed, because you're forced to pitch to those other guys because you don't want to pitch to Chourio, Yelich, Contreras. Contreras hasn't been that guy, which means Chourio's load is all that more important. Like, he's really got to carry it. So I continue to watch Chourio's splits, the last 7 days, last 5 days, stuff like that. I know his month-over-month stats, the beginning of June was really good. I don't know so much about the second half, and I don't know so much about the last week or two. But last night, hopefully a good sign maybe of things to come. The Brewers game has been delayed tonight, or it will be delayed. The way that it's being talked about, it looks like it could get played later. Impending weather in the area, they'll provide updates as soon as they're available. So I'll keep my eyes to the sky, or on the Mets Twitter account, and bring you the latest when we know it. And hopefully, selfishly for me, that means we get our WK2I audience and our WAYY audience in Eau Claire and La Crosse. We just get to keep you guys a little bit longer towards 6 o'clock. Emo's going to join us in the 5 o'clock hour when we come back. I want to talk a little bit about this Malik Beasley story, because it's pretty crazy. Badger Bloody brought it up. It's a Free Phones Friday, so I will, what's the word? I will oblige. I almost said indulge, but I know that's not true. I'll indulge in an hour and 13 minutes, but not yet. Let's talk about this Malik Beasley story next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. It's a Free Votes Friday on a Thursday. Ebo's going to join us in hour number 2 just because I love Ebo and it's been forever since he's been on. We'll talk about whatever. Like we're doing Free Votes Friday. You set the agenda with your phone calls. Badger Bloody earlier on in this first hour of the show brought up the Malik Beasley story. And if you haven't seen Malik Beasley, through a story that was put out by Robert Snell, who's with the Detroit News, he owes $8 million, or I'll just read you the headline. I won't try to paraphrase. FBI just one problem facing Malik Beasley amid $8 million in escalating financial problems. Beasley thrived on the court last year, blah, blah, blah. Court records obtained by the Detroit News paint a picture of the turbulent personal life as Beasley experienced a career breakthrough with the Pistons last season, while debts mounted from a celebrity barber, a dentist, a landlord, a lender, and a marketing firm. Court records and details about years-long history of financial problems are emerging. FBI conducting an investigation that is focused on wire fraud, gambling, and prop bets. Beasley, who has signed NBA contracts worth more than $59 million during his career, has not been charged with wrongdoing, but the Pistons have pulled back on a 3-year, $42 million offer amid the investigation, according to a source familiar with the offer. So I want to make sure there's nothing that I'm missing here from his lawyer or anything else. Beasley was sued in April by Hazan Sports Management, a boutique New York-based agency. Firm accused Beasley of failing to repay $650,000 in cash that was given to him as an advance against future marketing revenue from his name. So this is a theme from the story, is that he owed money to his representation, a barber, a dentist, and it was all contingent on money he would make, which I'm not exactly Dave Ramsey here, but that's not good. You never want to, I mean, that's payday lending, basically. No, it's not basically. That's exactly what payday lending is, just on a much larger scale, right? That's, again, I am far from Dave Ramsey here. That seems not great. Like, I don't want to say, hey, just give me $650,000. I'll clear it when I get my next contract. And I would say, like, oh, it's a bummer he had this $40 million contract or so pulled, because that might have solved his problems. But he had already had problems levied against previous future earnings. And like it's reported in the story, he's made like $60 million in his career. And if that's not enough, then more money isn't probably going to solve the problem. This is what I was trying to dig up over the break. I thought that when Beasley was in the Twin Cities, when he was with the Wolves, he had, he had a court appearance and then a legitimate stay in jail over something domestic violence related. Well, I suppose I could just pull up his Wikipedia. It would probably succinctly be summarized in there. Let me pull this up just so we all, criminal case. On September 27, 2020, Beasley was arrested for marijuana possession, concealing stolen property, and an incident in which he brandished a firearm. He was initially released from law enforcement custody, but later faced charges in Hennepin County. Beasley pled guilty to the felony charge of making a threat of violence and was sentenced to serve 120 days in jail, with confinement occurring after the conclusion of the season. Beasley served 78 of the 120 days and was released in August. So he did a legitimate stay in jail. And I thought, I could be wrong about this, and I was digging over the break, I thought that the reporting in the Twin Cities from like John Krasinski and the like was like he was very mature about all of this. He owned up to it. Like there was reporting like, yeah, this is a guy who deserves a second chance, and I would give it to him based on things that I've heard and seen. And I could be completely off on that, but I felt like that was the case. I don't know. He seemed to be likable. Like he's like, there are players who have tons of off the court issues, and then you watch them on the court or around their team, and you're like, yeah, that guy's a complete and total clown. He just does not have his life figured out. I never really got that read of Malik Beasley, and he's not harming anyone with these crimes. Well, physically harming anyone, but financially he's in deep doo-doo. All that to set up an actual sports take of mine. People are real hot and bothered that professional athletes are getting in trouble because of gambling. People don't like that. People think it's hypocritical of the NFL to levy penalties against players for gambling, given that the NFL gets millions of dollars in advertising from FanDuel or DraftKings or Watchdog, or you know who I'm talking about, right? Sleeper, right? Well, the league is in bed with all these companies, and yet the players can't use it. Yeah, yes, that's how it works. It's the same in the NBA. Oh, so Malik Beasley can't bet on some NBA games. He's not playing it. Oh, the NBA. Oh, that legal update for Malik Beasley's probably sponsored by DraftKings. It probably is, and that's fine. You know who sponsors a ton of time during NFL games? Beer, Bud Light, Miller Lite, Michelob, whatever. Does that mean that the player gets to be drunk during the game? No. Well, Grant, that's a silly example. Why is that a silly example? Just because someone advertises, or a brand or a product advertises in the league, doesn't mean that those athletes get to use it whenever they want, however they want. They grow up a little bit. I understand. I get overwhelmed with the gambling stuff too. And I'm very split on this because there's a lot of money in sports gambling. And if sports gambling was legal in the state of Wisconsin, I would probably stand to benefit from that because they'd probably want to advertise on shows like this. I'm not set to make millions here, but a couple extra dollars, I wouldn't complain personally. Like, it would probably benefit me in my business. I also kind of enjoy that sports gambling, at least outside of Potawatomi, in Wisconsin is not legal. Just for a personal reason, it's annoying as hell. I don't like how podcasts or sports talk television shows or radio shows, everything's got to be a gambling spin. You know what I mean? Like, I used to be able to just listen to the Bill Simmons podcast, and they would power rank the Eastern and the Western conferences. They would pick NFL games. You can't just do that anymore. Now it's, let's look at some of our favorite lines or some of our favorite picks from this weekend. And, you can kind of get to the same place. Like, okay, in giving your favorite lines, you're explaining the games and you're still talking sports, but it's just so overdone and overplayed. And it's annoying. And I think a lot of people feel that way. You turn on a game and it's like, sign up now and you get $100 in bonus bets when whatever. Yes, I understand. I think we all get a little tired of it. But that doesn't mean that players can do it. Even if the sports leagues are in bed with the gambling companies, they're in bed with the alcohol companies too. That doesn't mean that Jordan Love can have a bottle of Jack Daniels on the sideline, or Captain Morgan, or, whatever the official spirit is. Like in the NBA, it's Hennessy. Like LeBron bad example, because I think LeBron did have wine on the bench one time. So let me back up on that as it's a bad example. But you get my point, right? So I always think people show their immaturity a little bit when they're blasting that take everywhere. Like, oh, so Jonte Porter, or maybe a better example, I think Jamison Williams, was it he who got in trouble with the Lions because he bet on college football. And you can't bet on anything at the team facility. You can't bet it right there. Are these rules. And people always get their back up. It's like, oh, but the NFL can continue to rake in billions from sports gambling. That is exactly how that works. Yes. And I know you think you're doing something with that take. Well, it's a little hypocritical. Welcome to planet Earth. Yeah. Everyone's hypocritical. Everyone's just trying to make money. The players are direct beneficiaries of that advertising money, because the more money that the television partners make and the more money that the league makes, the more money will be factored into the whole pot, which means more in their pockets in terms of game checks. So, yeah, Malik Beasley cannot gamble. NFL players cannot gamble on other leagues or whatever the rules are. Yes, those are the rules. And that's how it works. And don't get upset. Well, that's hypocritical. But it's not. That's the way that the world works. The world kind of sucks. So I guess, yeah, in that you are correct. Everyone's playing by different rules, but that's how the world works. Hour number 2, we'll get a 2-minute update from Zach Halpern. Evo's going to join us in hour number 2. And I have some fun Bucks audio to play with as well. I don't understand what's going on with Dame. Someone help me. We'll do that next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Brewers are still in New York. It's where they're going to close out their series against the Mets tonight. The two teams split their doubleheader yesterday, with Milwaukee taking the first game and New York grabbing the second. That second game featured the first tough outing for Brewers rookie Jacob Misiorowski. After giving up 2 runs in his first 3 games combined, he gave up 5 in the second inning, including a grand slam. He rebounded to retire 6 of the next 7 batters before a 2-out single in the 4th ended his day. But he was happy that he did bounce back from that tough second inning.
I mean, I fixed it that next inning, so it's frustrating. But yeah, no, it's good going back in the dugout, and Hookie has exactly what I need. So it's it's frustrating, but at the same time, like, young career, and, it's good to figure it out now. Not when we're in the playoffs and it matters most.
Tonight, the Crew going to send Jose Quintana to the mound. He comes in 6-2 with a 3.30 ERA. Mets counter with David Peterson. He's 5-4 with a 3.30 ERA. After tonight, Milwaukee will head to Florida to open up their final road series before the All-Star break tomorrow. First pitch tonight, set for 6:10.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Rural Mutual Insurance is a proud sponsor of the Wisconsin State Fair. As a thank you for your support, they're giving away State Fair tickets. Visit ruralmutual.com/win and enter to win State Fair tickets.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Packers are less than 3 weeks out from the start of training camp. They're going to get things going July 23rd with the first of 14 practices open to the public, including the annual family night. And the Big Ten going to hold their media days in Las Vegas July 22nd through the 24th. Badgers going to be represented by quarterback Billy Edwards, cornerback Ricardo Hallman, and center Jake Renfro. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
And on Nimmo with the bases loaded, crashes one to deep right field, back toward the corner. Freeland goes back at the wall, and it's out of here! Brandon Nimmo with a grand slam!
It's done. I mean, use the old Tiger Woods approach and, move on to the next hit, move on to the next pitch. And, it is what it is. I got a loss, but oh well.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2 to Free Phones Friday, and I think the Brewer game is going to be a little delayed. I think that means maybe we'll hold our affiliates like WK2I in La Crosse and Sports Talk 105.1 up in Eau Claire. So we were going to lose you at 5:35 because the Brewers played 6:10, but hopefully now that's not the case. So we can be together until 6 o'clock. I want to get back into some of the Brewers takeaways from last night, game number 2 with Misiorowski. And I also want to talk a little bit about Damian Lillard because there's so much conflicting reporting on Dame and what he felt about the Bucks. It seems like everyone's talking about the Bucks and Dame, and yet no one has a clear consensus on how he actually feels about the Bucks or how they feel about him. It's very bizarre. So I want to get into that. But right now, a real treat. One of my favorite people, and I see him every day. I'm on his show. He used to join the show from time to time, and we've just kind of gotten away from that. It is Over the Lines, our own Ebo here on the Wisconsin Sports Talk Radio Network. Ebo, happy early 4th of July. How are you, my friend?
The big, beautiful Bills, Grant Bills. I'm fantastic. Happy early 4th, my friend. Happy 4th Eve. How are you?
I am doing well. Are you spending the 4th in Madison, or do you have plans to travel somewhere? I don't know that we talked about this.
I think my wife might have said something a couple days ago. I'll find out tomorrow when she reminds me.
Don't you have a neighbor that shoots off fireworks year-round at random times in the night, or did that rectify itself?
Oh, that will never rectify itself. I think he started last night around 11 p.m. I think I was awoken from my slumber. But yeah, tomorrow will really signify, I should say actually the 5th, about 2 a.m. is when he'll really light them up. So yeah, it's a yearly tradition of me seething and looking out my window and thinking I'm going to go out there and do something, and then I just don't. So maybe this year will change.
One of the biggest talking points on your show this week on Over the Line, and you can hear him 6 to 10, was the Morgan Wallen concert and the fallout and the reaction to the Morgan Wallen concert. Did you ever think that you'd live to see the day of an act like that playing in the heart of Madison? It was quite it is a pretty funny pairing, and there was a massive turnout. It's just not the typical thing that you see in Madison.
I wouldn't say fallout, but it ironic, if you will,
A little
to see Morgan Wallen down. And I've been in Madison since 2007. I'm from, Dodgeville, which is about 45 minutes away. So once you get into Madison, you realize about the certain neighborhoods of Madison and that area around Camp Randall. Not all of them, but I would imagine most, not Morgan Wallen fans, not at all. But it's great for the economy, a local economy. It's great for, the Camp Randall because there's not been a lot of winning down there. But, I mean, that was a win of Saturday and Sunday. Huge win for that area, the community in Camp Randall and Wisconsin as a whole, because it's it's a destination for an act like that. You got Coldplay coming up. Here's the thing with that neighborhood, though, Grant. They weren't happy with Morgan Wallen. I don't think they'll be happy with Coldplay, despite that being more their demographic, because it's noisy.
It's loud.
And people, it makes them happy. They don't even want Edgewood High School to have lights for their football team to play 4 or 5 games. Nothing will bring these people joy.
This isn't an idea that's completely and totally unique to Madison, which, by the way, is a city that we both love, right?
Love Madison.
We make jokes and we poke fun, but it's where we live and work and spend our time. So there might be people listening to this like, well, why do you guys live here? Well, we love this place.
I love Madison.
It's just kind of hilarious. And when there are funny things or things like we're going to talk about it, it's a job we're on the radio. Yeah. It's not uniquely Madison, but there are more examples in Madison than most places. It's like, I would like to live next to this big thing and this very busy road, but I don't want the big thing, the venue, to ever make noise or have lights, and I don't want anyone to ever be it is funny. Go live out in the very peaceful country. You can drive 20 minutes in any direction outside of Madison, and there's beautiful rolling hills and peace and quiet, and yet that's not where people end up. They end up right next to East Wash, bitching about everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's reality. That's the world now. If we're not bitching about something, we're not happy. So, I love that neighborhood too. You go Gates and Brovey, the Village Bar. Go on Regent Street for all those fine establishments. A beautiful, awesome area, and just like every area, you got your different kinds of folks, and we love them all. I love Madison. I love everything about it, even the people. That's why I say in the 4th tomorrow, that area may view it as a microaggression, but smile at them. Maybe give them a hug. Maybe give them a handshake. Maybe give them a nod. They might view it as a microaggression, but in your heart of hearts, you're just being kind. Extending an olive branch.
Yeah, Ebo is here. Ebo says on Twitter, all of this Bucks news broke immediately after you were off the air the other day. It's weird, Ebo, because people are talking about whether or not this Miles Turner signing is enough to keep Giannis. And it's good for content. It gives us something to talk about in the middle of the summer. I also think it's funny because I would have put the odds on Giannis coming back to the Bucks even if they didn't do anything. I felt pretty confident in them retaining him anyways, and yet people, Miles Turner isn't enough. It's like I don't even know that they needed to get Miles Turner. I don't think he was leaving.
Grant, I think it's much like our Madison conversation right now. It's like I love it here. I'm staying here.
Yeah,
you could have Coldplay or Morgan Wallen or some blue-haired freak yelling microaggressions at me. I would still stay here because I love it.
Why do you always say that? That's you. People do have colored hair. That doesn't mean they're. Go ahead, continue.
Well, you know the general in your head. The picture's been painted. You know what I'm talking.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, dye your hair whatever you want. I don't care. It's just it's that's the thing. No, but Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I said this to you last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. It was I'm 99% certain Giannis is staying anyways, no matter what happens. And we talked about this, and anything could happen in the NBA. And then you got Brian Windhorst out there who was like, whoever gets Miles Turner is going to be amazing. Then the Bucks get him. He's like, this didn't do enough to move the needle to keep Giannis. Then you have, I heard you the other day play the Chris Haynes from NBA TV on the Bill Michaels show. I played it too on my show. Did it not sound like they called him in like, dude, we need something?
Yeah.
And he just made it up on the spot.
It was a little because
Giannis's name right.
The first thing out of his mouth was like, I'm told that Giannis Antetokounmpo is not happy with the choice to release Damian Lillard. And then the next sentence out of his mouth was, he just didn't like how it was handled. It's like, okay, Chris, those are two radically different things. Crazy different things.
In Barcelona. He's in Barcelona on vacation. If you go to his Instagram, he was like having the time of his life in Barcelona. And the Chris Hayes, he couldn't even pronounce Giannis's name right. And this is an insider?
He was speaking about not Chris Haynes, Brian Windhorst. You might have heard this too. He was talking about how Giannis didn't really do anything to keep the Bucks in check. People have complained about LeBron forever, only signing 1-year deals and keeping the pressure on the team. And Windhorst was almost complaining that Giannis didn't do that. And then he's like, Giannis hasn't done that. All he's done is just go spend time with his family in his home country. It's like, do you guys hear yourselves right now? You sound insane. He's doing the exact thing that we wanted guys like LeBron to do forever, and you seem unhappy by it. It's just weird.
So DeAndre Ayton goes to the Lakers. They're like, LeBron, the Lakers, they got their center. They're set. They got their center.
Yeah.
This dude is a malcontent with the Portland Trailblazers. He doesn't even want to get an Uber if it's icy in his neighborhood. Remember when he's like, I can't make it to the game tonight, coach. It's icy.
Yeah.
He's not showing up for team flights. He's not showing up for practice. And all of a sudden, it's heralded as some amazing move for the Lakers getting DeAndre Ayton. When the Bucks get Miles Turner, which I've never heard a single Bucks fan complain about this. I haven't heard a single one.
I think we're all excited. This is as excited as I've been since like probably the first game with Dame when he was awesome against the Sixers, because I kind of felt like the last time.
John Horst is at least he is moving the needle. It's doing something rather than doing nothing. You know, like whatever he's doing, it's going to be intriguing. And I've never heard a single Bucks fan complain about it. The only people I hear complain about it is Windhorst, Haynes, and who's ever a national media member.
Yeah. I would tend to agree. Ebo is here. Ebo says on Twitter, it's over the line, 6-10. Thank God the Brewers figured it out, at least for a month. Ebo, I have been on the air, and you have been joining my show basically ever since I've been on the air since 2018. I've never had a Brewers team that's not in the mix. I have never had to go through the doldrums of summer with a Brewers team that was hopeless. And that's something that you've experienced a little bit more. Like, I'm glad that we're not in that spot. I still don't know that this team is NL Central, championship bound or going to win playoff games. Maybe they won't even make a playoff spot, but this last month and the shape that they're currently in, like, it makes me feel a little bit better. And I'm glad that we don't have a completely awful baseball team.
Grant, look to the behind your right shoulder. You're facing I assume you're facing the mic, like the window, your back right shoulder. There's a 90s Brewers logo hat. And there's a pin there for the 90s Brewers. Well, I grew up with the 90s Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was futility. If you look up Webster's Dictionary of Futility, it would be the Milwaukee Brewers in my childhood. What I've come to the fact that this may be a defeatist take, which is rare for me, that they'll never win a World Series. They'll never win a World Series. I've resigned myself to that.
It does often feel like that. Yes,
it does. So when Mark Atanasio, and it's shame on me again, I was off, and I'll admit when I'm off. When he said, "Is it my job to provide a summer of fun and entertainment?" I scoffed at it. I said, "No, you should be winning a World Series." I've looked back since summer started. You've had, and I've said this to you, Christian Yelich 8 RBIs, Durbin bat flips. You have Joey Ortiz hitting grand slams. You have the emergence of the Milwaukee Missile, the Miz. You have, insert, because they haven't lost too much since summer began. The summer of fun is amazing. You just got to lose yourself in the moment of the Milwaukee Brewers. Lose yourself in the summer of fun
and passion.
The fall is inevitable, but the summer of fun is amazing. 162 games. Enjoy it day by day.
Lastly, we're now less than a month away from training camp. Will the Packers ever win a Super Bowl with Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur? If you had to bet. I'd say no. I like them both a lot, but I'll go first. I would bet against it just based on the odds.
I would also bet against it. There's always hope. I felt that way with Brett Favre. I felt that way with Aaron Rodgers. I'm not sure how I feel because it's early with Jordan Love. Matt LaFleur, man.
Are you more hesitant on LaFleur or Jordan Love?
Both. I would say Rob Reichel had a great article. How old is Matt LaFleur right now? What is he, 44? What is he?
I'm not sure, actually.
When 42, somewhere in there. Rob had a number when a coach
45.
after, and he's been 7 seasons with the Packers? Is it? I think the Rob Reichel had this number as a coach. They're in their first 7 years. I think if they don't win a Super Bowl, they never win a Super Bowl. And I'm just going off the numbers that Rob put out there. I think there's one outlier in that, but I don't know. A guy, handsome son of a gun. I'll tell you that though. The fade, the haircut, the eyebrows, the manscaping. That dude has a glow up. This year, I think, is very telling of how it is because you have the youngest team. If they're not gelled by now with Jordan Love and these wide receivers, and then you get a dog like Josh Jacobs, and I don't know if it's in the cards. But this year is huge for me. I'll hesitantly say yes, they'll win one, but I don't feel the same I did with Rodgers or Favre.
I gotcha. That makes sense. I think there's more of the book to be written with Jordan Love. I kind of feel like we know who Matt LaFleur is. But you put a coach like that in the right situation, they can still win. I mean, we've seen it with Andy Reid. Like, yeah, Kyle Shanahan's lost Super Bowls, but I don't think he's prohibited from ever winning a Super Bowl. So it's situation dependent. Well, I appreciate you, Ebo. It's been too long in the evening. So if you're ever interested in doing this again, I'm always happy to have you. Have a great 4th of July.
Grant, you have a better one. You know the number. I'm always open to join the highly successful Wisco Sports Show. I love you, brother. And do the All-American, grill some steak, have a beer, and just bask in 70, 76 flowing through your veins.
I really hope so. 70, 76. Appreciate you, Ebo. Love you, buddy. That is Ebo over the line, 6 to 10 every morning on this network and these same affiliates. Always appreciate his time. That's just an off-season Packers question. And I think it's a very direct question that you can ask someone that will instantly gauge their optimism or their belief in this Packers team, especially quarterback and coach. Do you think they can win a Super Bowl with these guys? And I think most folks would say, well, they could. If I have to bet, am I going to bet on it? No, probably not. And I don't know. I might have more belief, or let's just say there's more to be revealed, as Ebo would say, with Jordan Love. Like, Jordan Love could come out this year and show us that version that we saw in the second half of his rookie year. And we're like, oh, okay, so he was hurt last year, sophomore slump. Yeah, he's awesome. He's great. And he was a developmental project indeed. Look at this arm talent. Now the wide receivers have come along by a year, and it just works. I could see that happening. I think with Matt LaFleur, we've mostly seen who he is, which is a coach that's good enough to get you there. But when they've got there, it hasn't worked out for different reasons. I don't think that they lost to the Buccaneers because of Matt LaFleur. I don't think they lost to the Niners 2 years ago because of Matt LaFleur. I know that Matt LaFleur was not some super agent that put them over the top. I think Aaron Rodgers getting a little iso-balled in that game against the Bucs, and the Bucs defense was awesome, and Kevin King, et cetera, et cetera. And then I think against the Niners last year, I think of those 2 third-down plays where Jordan Love had somebody open across the middle and he just missed him. Or, Aaron Jones continued running and expected to be hitting stride, and Jordan Love thought he would sit down, and it just didn't work. And to me, that's not Matt LaFleur. That's Jordan Love executing, or Aaron Jones executing. So I don't know. I still think I have more belief in what Jordan Love could be. I think we mostly know who Matt LaFleur is, and Matt LaFleur is someone who's going to need probably a lot of elite talent, as Andy Reid did once upon a time. And I think as Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay does as well, or even Kevin O'Connell, who everybody loves, he's yet to win a playoff game. So you can't win the big one until you win the big one. I just think Matt LaFleur is going to need that perfect team in the perfect year. And as we've talked about, I don't know that the Packers have elite the way that the Vikings do or the Lions do. They have some very solid players. I don't think they have enough game changers, which Edgerrin Cooper could become that, or Jordan Love could become that. But at this moment in time, appreciate Ebo, token Packer question at the end, because we're a couple weeks away from training camp. We'll take a 3-minute break, come back, and I'll get right back into your phone call. So sorry I shut you off in that first segment, but we had a chance to connect with Ebo, so that's what we did. We'll come back. More of your phone calls. It's a free phones Friday, 608-321-1670. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. It's a Free Phones Friday on top of a Fins Up Friday on a Thursday. How great is this? 4th of July tomorrow. Really appreciate Ebo. Love that guy. And I used to do the show out of our studio in La Crosse. Ebo would be here. So on Tuesday mornings, I do a segment with him, and I don't know, maybe about once a month he'd come on with me. I typically don't like people to have to come on with me more than once a month. Then it feels like more than a favor. Now it's a thing. A favor you can say, not today, but let's do it another time. You go a little bit farther than that. It's like you're expected to do. Then I don't like doing that, unless of course like Mike Clemens is paid to. That's his role. This fall we're gonna have Ryan Wood, who will be a paid contributor to the show. We'll have him every week. Anything more than that, I start to feel a little bit guilty. So we appreciate Ebo, and I should have him on more often than we do. Which has recently been almost never. Your phone call is going to continue to set the agenda through the rest of the show. I threw a little bit of a Packers topic out there if you want to bite on that and discuss that. Like, if you feel Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur could ever get this team to the promised land, would you bet on it? Would you not? If not, are one of those two a bigger reason than the other? Or is it both of them on equal footing is not good enough? So that's on the table. I also have some Damian Lillard stuff that I want to get into, but first your calls. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hi, my name is Steve.
Steve, where are you calling from, Steve?
I am calling from Paoli, Wisconsin. First-time caller.
Well, thank you, Steve. Well, thank you for calling. I don't know what you're going to say. Maybe you're going to tell me that I suck and you don't like the show, but thank you for calling at the very least.
No, not today.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay, that's very fair.
I really appreciated your take on gambling on sports talk radio.
Yeah.
I'm 68 years old, and I've been listening to sports talk radio since the late 70s. And it's been annoying me a lot lately. It's a new thing. And your description of what you were thinking about it was really spot on in my book. And I do appreciate that.
It's a lot, Steve. It's constant and it's all the time. And it's presented like, well, if you're a sports fan, like how are you a sports fan and you don't gamble? It's like, I don't know, man. It's entertainment. Plus, I got plenty of dumb ways to lose money, and I would lose money.
Exactly, I agree. I do too, and I don't gamble. Otherwise, I could talk longer in the future, but I'll just leave with one quick question.
Yeah.
And do you think the Bucks can possibly come up with a guard that can play point and defense? Maybe somebody in the mold of old Dante DiVincenzo, for instance. I'll let you go with that. You have a great weekend.
Thanks, Steve. Down on the south side of Madison, outside of Madison, Paoli, down south of Verona, north of Belleville, for those who don't know where that is. I don't know what kind of options they have. I don't love Kevin Porter Jr. as the only option. I like him as instant offense, and he had games where he was, good at that. He had more games where he was kind of a mess. Their options are limited. I don't know who's still out there. To tell you the truth, Steve, we've had so much to talk about this week with Dame, Miles Turner, Taurean Prince, with the guys who have been added or cut loose. We've had so much to focus on. I've mostly been focusing on that. I haven't necessarily been pouring through, available options at point guard. Now, Chris Paul has been rumored. That seems unlikely. I once upon a time heard through someone who would know. So normally the funny thing is Justin comes on the show all the time. He's obviously a member of the Bucks organization. Kurt comes on all the time. He's obviously plugged into the Brewers very closely. Those two are very good friends and friends of the show. So anytime I say, I heard from a Bucks person, like, okay, so Justin told you. I'm telling you that in this instance, Justin has nothing to do with this. I actually heard this from someone in lacrosse who heard something from somebody that once upon a time, Chris Paul to Milwaukee was an idea that like they were pondering. They were thinking about that. Like, is that something that we could make work? Is that something that could maybe fit? And I think that was even before he was a Sun. So did he go Oklahoma City, Houston, Phoenix, or Phoenix? I can't remember the exact progression, but it was basically, pandemic or slightly after, before he ended up on the Suns, that it was an option that was on the table for the Bucks. And from what I heard, Giannis had very little interest in that. I don't know that Giannis is a Chris Paul guy. I don't know where Chris Paul's relationship stands with Doc Rivers. I feel like maybe there's some history there. Maybe it's water under the bridge. I don't know. Chris Paul could fit the mold as a little bit of a traditional point guard. There just aren't a lot of those guys left anymore. We're so focused on combo guards. Guys who can defend, who can pass, who can shoot, who can, defend up a couple levels like Drew Holiday or Derek White. There's very few Tyus Jones, or I guess what Chris Paul used to be. The reason why Chris Paul was so good and he was on his own level is because he was that traditional point guard who made things happen and got folks involved, but he also could fill it up and he could also score of his own volition. Typically it's one or the other. I don't know what the Bucks are going to end up doing. They could certainly use that guy. Now, I don't think it's a do or die need. We need a starter because, Giannis can facilitate. This team's probably its best version when Giannis has the ball in his hands and he is attracting the attention of the defense and he's getting screens set for him and guys are cutting off of him. So, a traditional point guard bringing the ball up the floor, yeah, it's nice. And I definitely want more depth there in the backcourt than they currently have. But in crunch time or in the biggest moments, Giannis is going to be the one with the ball in his hands. So I don't know that it's a pressing emergency need. I have a little sound for those who are interested, because a lot of times when I don't know, when the sports calendar is a little quiet, and I'm like, okay, I have a couple of takes tonight, but how are we going to, have a robust 2 hours of sports talk? Something that I'll do is I'll just go cut a bunch of audio. Like, what were the big shows today? What were the big podcast topics? I'm just going to cut a take from that and we can react to that. One of my favorite sports talk radio shows, Felger and Maz. Felger was on with us at the Super Bowl. Felger's from Milwaukee, but he does sports radio in Boston. Here talking about Damian Lillard and Giannis and how these are two guys that kind of need to have the ball in their hand. Like, I don't think Damian Lillard wants to play off the ball as a spot-up shooter. I don't think Giannis necessarily wants to play off the ball as a cutter and a screener and as a rim runner, even though I think it would lead to better winning basketball. I don't know his appetite for that. Here's a minute and 5 seconds from Mike Felger yesterday on his show on the Sports Hub in Boston, kind of on this idea.
I also think he's kind of a loser.
And he's originally talking about Damian Lillard because he's available and they were rumored to the Celtics. So basically on, however many different sports markets around the country, they're like, okay, do you want Damian Lillard? 608-321-1670, which we would be doing too, but obviously he was just released by Milwaukee.
I also think he's kind of a loser. And I say kind of, like, it's small L. He's not James Harden. He's not Carmelo Anthony. He's not one of these guys. He's total, team killing bums. He's not. But you do wonder, is he just one of those guys that's more happy scoring 38 points with the ball in his hands for a okay team than he is being a role player and doing the little things to win on a really good team?
Maybe.
He's that first thing.
Yep.
I mean, that's how he played in Milwaukee, and that's maybe what Giannis is too. Again, I don't want to just totally blame Lillard for that because I think Giannis has unfortunately come to embody a lot of those things as well. I think Giannis might be happier contending for MVPs on a mediocre team than having mediocre numbers on a great team and winning a championship. And I think Lillard's the same way. So small L loser is what I think Lillard is. So I don't think he's a fit on the floor. I don't think he's a fit culturally. You know what I mean?
This is why, and I brought this up with Isaac Trotter last week or the week before. When was the NBA draft? Was that this week? When was that? When was Bogeyub? Was that? Who cares? It doesn't matter. I'm a little turned around. But we talked with Isaac Trotter, and I used Steph Curry is an example for something we were talking about. I don't know. This idea of, ball dominance becomes so negative. I don't want that superstar player that always has to be dribbling the ball. And what drives me nuts, and I've said this on the show before, I said it to Isaac Trotter, it drives me nuts that Steph Curry has openly and obviously laid the blueprint on how to play as a guard and how to contribute to winning basketball when the ball isn't in your hands. I mean, there's plenty of guards. Trae Young, Luka, even though he's bigger than a guard, he plays like a guard. I'm trying to think. Jalen Brunson is another good example, although I think his Q rating is higher than Trae Young and some others, but I think Jalen Brunson embodies this as well, to steal Felger's word. I think there's guards all over the league who can score and break guys down one-on-one and get to the rim. And Shea is maybe a little bit like this too. Can get to the free throw line and just do all the things. Give me the ball. I'm going to make it happen. Why I love Steph Curry, and I love Steph Curry the older I get, is because he did all the other stuff. He's like, okay, once I pass the ball and it's clear that this possession isn't for me, I'm going to go do ABC and XYZ and 1, 2, 3. I'm going to fly around and come off screens and make the defense reposition and do all these things, right? And he's a little challenged defensively because he's small. But I think especially in recent years, you go back to 2022, I think a big talking point of that Warriors title was he got bigger. He said, I can't be a complete and total turnstile on defense. I at least need to be able to hold my own. It was very clear that was important to him. He looked bigger and stronger. And I think that definitely paid dividends in 2022 against the Celtics. Like, Curry does all the other stuff. But as Isaac Trotter pointed out when he was on, like, that's hard. Like, it's hard to pass the ball away and now go sprint off a cut, or draw the defense this way, or pass, run off a screen, reposition, come behind for a handoff and a shot. Like, Steph Curry works. Watch a Warriors game. Steph Curry is sprinting all the time and running around all the time. You watch Trae Young, you watch Luka or Jalen Brunson, or even to take this conversation outside of just guards, you look at like Tatum or Shea, and we saw this in the postseason. Like, those guys, they might try, bring me a screen, dribble, a little move. Okay, I couldn't really get my angle. I couldn't really get my shot. Pass. I'm going to go stand on the other wing. You guys take a shot, and then we'll try this again in a minute, when we get the ball back. And I just, as I get older, I have less and less appetite for that. I have less appetite to watch the top dog on each team just trade and take turns taking crappy shots. I'm not really interested in that. It can be fun in moments. And it's certainly worthwhile. And we saw that from Chris, and we saw that in Giannis in that title run. Like, sometimes you got to do it because you can't get a sliver of daylight because things don't open up for you. But you watch the Thunder at the end. It's like those possessions in Game 7. That's why I think the Pacers win a title if Halliburton doesn't get hurt, is because the final 2 minutes, the Thunder just took turns between Jalen Williams and Shea taking awful shots until the clock expired. Like, that's I'm like, it's not what I'm interested in. And Damian Lillard certainly is that too. And I don't question Damian Lillard's work ethic or his drive. He's super motivated. He's always discussed and thought of very highly. So I'm not saying that he's fat and lazy. It just bothers me a little bit to watch Steph Curry completely and obviously for the world to see laid the blueprint on how to impact winning as much as possible, even as a small, undersized guard. And no one else in the league saw that or has seen that and said, I want to commit to doing that too. And I think the result is a lot of players like Dame or Brunson or Trae Young or even, Tatum or Giannis, players who are very ball dominant, who are like, this is going to run through me, and I want the respect, and I demand the privileges and the opportunities of the number one guy, even if it's not necessarily what makes for the best competitive, copacetic, contender level basketball. And I don't think it does. So I think that's a little true of Dame. We'll continue this discussion on the other side of the break. I have some audio that's really confusing to me about Dame. I just don't get it. So we'll do that when we get back. It's the Wisco Sports Show. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
And obviously, listen, it's a sucky situation that he has to rehab from a torn Achilles. But as far as like getting his walking papers from Milwaukee, he never wanted to be in Milwaukee. And he was a pro and he tried to make the best of it. But it and they weren't, it's not like the Bucks weren't bad with him, but it goes down as one of the all-time disappointments to make that kind of trade and then not even get a playoff series win of it. It's an all-time disappointment. But again, he didn't want to be there. He had to, actively try to make sure he wasn't miserable. And now, hey, if he still wants to get to Miami, that's probably going to be on the table. If he wants to, go back to the Bay Area, his hometown, there might be an opportunity there. Damian Lillard potentially at a minimum. there will be a whole lot of teams lined up interested in chit chat about that.
That's Tim McMahon, ESPN, who I respect a ton. He's been doing it a long time, and I don't think he's someone who just makes things up. But I've also seen reports, including from like Dame a year ago or months ago, where he's talked about, because he's been questioned. It's like, look, we know that this wasn't your number one target. You wanted to be in Miami. We know that you got here late, and we know the family situation isn't great. But Dame in the past has been like, hey man, I'm here to play basketball. I'm locked in. This idea that I'm miserable isn't correct. Like, I'm seeing conflicting reports. Some people are like, he hated it there. He was miserable there. And then others, I've seen reports where he's like, he had a great relationship with the front office. It just didn't work on the court. It's like, how do we have a million reporters and basketball people and podcasters and just everything, writers, the whole thing? Everyone is focusing on the Bucks situation this week, and we can't get a consensus, it would seem, on this. Just really annoying and bizarre to boot. 608-321-1670, free phones Friday. Your calls on anything. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Oh, Grant. Hey, Tony from Texas.
Tony.
I'll get into the Dame thing really quick, but, I want to say rest in peace to one of my favorite actors, Michael Madsen. I don't know if you're familiar with his
Kill
work.
Bill.
Yeah, Kill Bill. I know Deshaun O'Connell's probably feeling it because he's a big Kung Fu fan. But, Quentin Tarantino movies, Reservoir Dogs, and then my favorite's Donnie Brasco. Just classic movies like that. But, rip Michael Madsen. Rip Damian Lillard for that matter, too. I was in Wichita, Kansas all week, Grant. I wasn't able to call your show because I'm busy, focused on my job. Damian Lillard, I hope, was focused on his job with the Bucks. I don't know what bars or clubs do we go to in Milwaukee that are the Harp? I don't know. Where do we go to party it up? Bobby Portis seems to have a good time. He might know. But I just want my basketball players, call me ignorant, just shut up and dribble, play ball, or in Steph Curry's case, move without the ball like Steph does. I don't care about all this stuff, but to me, it's just an old narrative. I don't know why people bring this up. We had it happen with Kareem, other athletes, Gary Sheffield. I want to hear about Brandon Woodruff, guys like that. I'm just sick of the nonsense, Grant.
And I think a lot of the nonsense has come from people around or outside of Dame's circle. Like, I think Dame was very locked in. His reputation in terms of work ethic and focus, like, it's sterling. You won't hear anybody say a bad thing about him. I don't think that was the issue. I think it was fit with Giannis that everyone thought would work, and it didn't. Probably some fault from both parties. And then I think the last couple of days, it's a lot of basketball reporters who want to make a headline and get their take off about how, Dame kind of was miserable here. And I'm sure there were times where he didn't feel great. I don't know that he ever had a bad relationship with the Bucks or people on the Bucks. I just don't know that he was in a good spot. Does that make sense? Because I'm not really blaming Dame for a lot of this.
It's a job in a city that, first of all, the company is a pretty good company. You say what you want about the Bucks.
Yeah, they care. They
management,
invest.
But the product on the court typically has been pretty good the last decade. So with that point, I don't even think that was an issue. It just didn't work out. Now, all these people that crowned the Bucks after they made this trade, I was like, I actually called your show. I'm like, tap the brakes on this. This might not even work.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fault Horst for taking the swing. You got to take the swing, right?
I think so.
It just didn't work out. And I don't know what's going to happen going forward, but I can't fault the GM for making it. It didn't work out. You move on. It is what it is.
Well, and there's some audio that I want to play for you, and I appreciate it, Tony. Like Bill Simmons on his podcast yesterday with Mahoney, and I didn't hear Mahoney's take because that wasn't included in the breakout clip that I saw. But Bill Simmons is like, I'm only doing this deal if I'm top 4 in the East. And I'm not top 4 in the East, so I'm not doing it. I would have traded Giannis instead. It's like, do you guys, it's a little odd how we just scoot the goalposts around for the Bucks. It's like they need to get better. Giannis is monitoring. Giannis is watching. And then they go get the top available free agent and they financially bite the bullet on a guy who can't. It's like everyone forgot Dame has a blown Achilles. Everyone remembers it with Tatum. Everyone remembers it with Halliburton. But with Dame, it's like, oh, he's going to join a contender and be amazing. Well, first of all, he just joined a contender and it didn't work. And now he's almost 35 and his Achilles is blown. So the Bucks bit the financial bullet to move off of that, which allowed them to go get the next guy, which improved their chances. And everyone's like, well, yeah, but like, what are they going to be, the 96 Bulls? No one said that the threshold was be the 96 Bulls. The threshold, at least next year, is compete in the East. And I think they've done that. Well, the Hawks have taken a job. Do you hear yourself? The Hawks, maybe, but like, can we see the Hawks take the court for a month before we start putting the Bucks at like 7th or 8th in the East? Another thing with sports betting is I heard on with Windhorst, ESPN earlier today, like we were looking at ESPN Bet and they have the Bucks 8th in the East. I don't care. I do not care where your state-sponsored sports book has the Bucks in freaking July. I don't care. This is another thing. Gambling's crept in. Well, ESPN Bet has them at 8th in the East. I mean, that's not good enough. Oh, well, if ESPN Bet has them there, then that must be gospel. And that must make this move horrible. Of course, this move mortgages a ton of the future and has a lot of risk. And it probably won't work out. But trading Giannis is the end. It's the end. I don't see why they just wouldn't have traded Giannis. Well, you obviously don't get it. So I guess I don't really care what you have to say then. One more caller here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Teacher Tom.
Hey, Teacher Tom. What's going on?
Hey, well, I'm happy with what the Bucks have done this week. They're better off than I thought they would be.
Yeah, this is as excited as I've been about the Bucks since Dame got here. I'd way rather watch this than what I thought they were going to have this season.
Definitely. And then do you remember Maurice Claret?
I know the name. Please enlighten me.
So great freshman season at Ohio State as a running back.
Yep.
He sued the NFL to enter after just his freshman season.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge ruled he could not, but he had already hired an agent and got endorsement so he could not go back to college.
Okay. It looks like he went to the UFL.
That could be. I forgot that part.
Oh, continue. Sorry.
But then he, entered the draft a year later, was a bust. But during that year of not playing, he ended up owing a lot of money to the Israeli mafia.
Oh.
So they funded his 1 year of not being in college or in the NFL.
The Israelis?
I wonder if, yes.
All right.
So I wonder if we'll get anything like that out of Malik Beasley.
Well, it sounds like the issue is nobody was funding it. He was putting up all these IOUs against his future earnings, which now he can't get because he's never going to play in the NBA again. Look, if he had money problems and that was the extent of it, it's look, I spend too much on a car, blah, blah, blah. Well, the Pistons would still employ him, and then he'd have $40 million coming in the next 3 years, and he could probably work through it. But you bet on games as a professional athlete, you're out. You're done. So now he can't earn that money back. I don't know what's going to happen to him.
There just seems like there has to be something bigger going on.
Yeah,
like we've only heard the tip of the iceberg with him. Like what else?
Interesting. How do you owe a barber that much? You take a loan out on a barber?
Good question.
That's why I'm here. Interesting.
So that's why Maurice Claret came to mind. Like there has to be more to the Malik Beasley situation than just what we've heard.
That is a good comp, and it took me a second to realize why, Teacher Tom, but now I do, and I appreciate the story and the comp. Yeah, I don't know, man. The gambling thing, just don't gamble. And I mean, his life's in a rough spot, but you probably get out of it. He was about to sign a 3-year deal worth 40-something million. Like you were. Then again, he'd already made about 50 million, and he's in the hole. So with some people, it's like it's Hesh in The Sopranos. It's like, bigger envelope comes in, more money goes out the other side. Like that's just how some people are. When we come back, we can pick at this a little bit more. A couple final closing thoughts on Dame, and maybe we can give our final thoughts, our closing thoughts about the Brewers before they have the finale against the Mets today and then play Miami this weekend over the 4th of July. We'll wrap up the Wisco Sports Show. Listen to a little Jimmy Buffett coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Not only going out to
Fins up, it's Friday, or at least on a Thursday. Good Buffett live album, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Definitely dipping into that this weekend. Some texts coming in at 608-321-1670. Spencer in Janesville says, I think they still have that mid-level exception available. I wouldn't be surprised to see Prince and some others get swapped for a true ball handler. Excuse me. Got to get at least one more player who can run the point. I agree. It's mostly for a depth thing, navigating an 82-game regular season thing, because I think season's going to be a lot of point Giannis, but absolutely. Dryfly in Montana says, are the Bucks retiring Brooke Lopez's jersey? I don't think so. Close. I think they'll retire Giannis and Chris, and that's probably it. I think the next highest honor for both Drew and Brooke, and probably Pat Connaughton as well. And maybe Bobby Portis. I don't know if that's Ring of Honor or Wall of Honor. Some people are really good at that. You know who's actually really good at that stuff? And he would never admit it. But Andrew Wagner is really good with that stuff. Historical precedent, right? What awards or what honors should be bestowed on what level of players at certain points in their, post-playing career. He's really good at that. If you ever want someone who's, can really speak that, at least about the Brewers, Andrew Wagner is an awesome voice for that. No, I don't think they'll retire Brooks' number. I think they should retire Giannis and Chris, and that's probably it. But the next closest thing, I can't tell you how highly I think of Brook Lopez in his time in Milwaukee, and just how much of a fun player he was too. Like the Bucks experience for years and years and years was just more fun because Brook was here. And I know so many Bucks fans like, thank God he's gone. He's a dinosaur. Okay, well, yeah, not anymore, but like big Brook Lopez fan. Very fun and additive to the game of basketball in the league, the NBA. I want to play you a Bill Simmons bite here, if I may, just because where is it here? Hold on. I got a lot of sound the last couple of days. Here's Bill Simmons. He hated the Bucks move. Go figure. Let's react to this.
What Milwaukee did was one of the most desperate, reckless moves that I could ever remember since I've been a basketball fan. I hated it. I don't understand it. I think it's a disaster. I didn't approve of any single aspect of it. Carrying the Dame stretch thing for 5 years, idiotic. Doing it for Miles Turner, I have no idea why they would do that. I just don't understand why they wouldn't have just traded Giannis.
And there it is. So I'm out then. So then I'm out. If your argument is, well, I just would have traded Giannis, well, then I don't really care about anything else you have to say because they're not going to do that. And I thought Parkins articulated this really well on First Things First the other day. I played you the sound. Like, I don't think anyone outside of Milwaukee, and I don't like playing the small town hayseed, the national media hates this guy. I explained this yesterday, but like, I don't think people outside understand. The Bucks were an inch away from leaving. Their old arena was kind of in shambles, although I enjoyed the Bradley Center till the end. The people who worked there, it was always a good experience, but like, it wasn't tenable. Giannis arrives, wins a championship for the first time in 50 years in the franchise. It's like, well, why don't they just trade him for like a Benedict Mathurin or an Azur Thompson, and then they'll just get a bunch of picks? Are you stupid? For what? To fend off what? To try to become best case scenario, you get picks and young players, and you turn into what the Lakers turn into with Lonzo and Ingram and those guys and Larry Nance and picks. And guess what that got him? Nothing. It got them Anthony Davis and LeBron, who ultimately won a championship. Like, when this thing runs its course, it's done and it's cooked. There is no smooth off-ramp post Giannis. I don't know why people keep talking like that.
That you're going to pay for the next 4 years, $47 million, $49 million, $50 million, and $51 million for Miles Turner.
First of all, Jaylen Brown's making $70 million. So let's, numbers are big in the NBA and the cap's going up. So, okay, yeah, tell me something I don't know. Also, Damian Lillard's not playing next year. Why is just everyone skidding over that fact? So you would rather them just pay $30 million for the carcass of Dame Lillard next year, who's injured and I'm told miserable, instead of paying, Damian Lillard plus a little more for Miles Turner? It's the owner's money. I don't get it. And if Giannis decides to leave in a year, okay, so they trade Miles Turner. They don't need that money from Dame anyways. Who's coming here? Nobody.
If that's the only recourse you have, if that's how desperate you are to keep Giannis, I'm trading Giannis at that point. I'm folding my hand. And I just don't get it. This doesn't make them a top 4 team in the East. I'm only doing this if I'm a top 4 team in the East, and I'm not. So why am I doing this?
That's just ridiculously arbitrary. I'm only doing this if I'm a top 4 team in the East. What does that have to do with the price of rice in Egypt? And this is classic Simmons, right? And I like Bill Simmons. But it's, if you're in the top 73%, if you're a top 4 team, and what are these guidelines? So because they can't be theoretically top 4, they should be okay with being 7th, or they should just trade away the best player in franchise history for what? They don't own their own picks for the next couple of years anyways. I don't get it. And a lot of people, Bucks fandom, are like, they just hate the Bucks, the national media. And I've always pushed back on that. I'm like, I don't think that's it. I just think they're a good story, and it makes for good segments and ratings, and it sells newspapers, right? The old expression. But sometimes I listen to these takes. I'm like, it kind of does seem and sound personal from you guys. It is odd. It is bizarre. So when people say, oh, they hate Milwaukee, it's getting harder and harder to disprove that, even though I don't like feeling small time. Like, oh, the national media is against us. Have a great 4th of July. Listen to some Jimmy Buffett. I'll be back on Monday at 4. Talk to you.